President Joko Widodo continues with the initiatives to solve human rights violations of the past by visiting earlier this week the site of Rumoh Geudong tragedy in Pidie, Aceh. The president's visit marks the government's commitment to settle those past rights cases and lead the nation to move forward and look to the future in peace and relief.
President Joko Widodo visited on Tuesday the site of Rumoh Geudong tragedy in Aceh, where the National Commission on Human Rights, or Komnas HAM, found strong evidence of crimes against humanity that occurred from 1989 to 1998, where the military operation zone, or DOM status, was imposed in the province. Rumoh Geudong was chosen because it was a silent witness and has become a symbol of vertical or structural violence during the specific period, when massive campaign against separatist movement in the country's westernmost province was launched. The president's visit sends a signal of the government's seriousness in its efforts to solve gross human rights violations of the past. Once again, I have to say that the government is sincere in its intention to solve past human rights abuses in our country, according to a recommendation from the PPHAM, President Joko Widodo said at the site of the now flattened Rumoh Geudong. He was referring to the non-judicial resolution team for the past serious human rights violation, which the government set up last year under Presidential Decree No. 17, year 2022. The team is led by Coordinating Political, Legal and Security Affairs Minister Mahfud MD. Today's visit was an apparent continuation of the president's gesture in January, when he acknowledged and apologized for 12 incidents of gross human rights violations that occurred between 1965 and 2003. The president is following up on formal acknowledgement by embarking on a tour across the country, as well as to a number of European countries, to meet with and apologize directly to victims of the past rights abuses, as well as promise restitutions for them. The government's acknowledgement and apology for past human rights cases is a startling development for a nation that has been in denial of human rights violation that had happened in the past. The oldest and the worst of these cases is the 1965 to 1966 massacre, an army-led campaign to crush the then Indonesian Communist Party, or PKI. Human rights groups said more than 500,000 PKI member sympathizers and their family members were slain. Tens of thousands of others were sent to do hard labor on a penitentiary remote island in Maluku. The other 11 cases involve the killing of alleged criminals in the 1980s in Jakarta and other big cities, a military attack on an Islamic boarding school in Lampung in the 1990s, the kidnapping and disappearance of students and activists in the late 1990s, and several killings in Aceh and Papua. The decision to recognize the massacre and 11 other past tragedies as gross human rights violation follows the recommendation of a presidential commission created to look at non-judicial resolutions for the 12 selected cases. The commission consists of 17 government ministries and agencies. In addition to establishing the commission, the president also announced a plan to personally meet with the victim or their relatives of the tragedies. This includes a meeting in Europe with many who went into exiles in the 1960s to avoid persecution and have lived either as stateless persons or have taken up citizenship in Europe. Part of Jokowi's plan is inviting them to come home and offering to reinstate their Indonesian citizenship. All of these measures are believed to be part of Jokowi's commitment to fulfill his 2014 presidential election campaign promise to resolve once and for all the 1965 to 1966 massacre and other human rights atrocities. The settlement of past human rights cases is indeed far from over. Some of the victims and their families have accepted the government's offer and said they had forgiven what happened to their families, while some others reject the effort and are still demanding justice through a judicial settlement. Somehow, the process must begin, as this nation cannot let such cases continue to be a thorn in the flesh and prevent us from moving forward and making progress for the best.